again.
to be with you, Alex.
Join me right now, John Sipher, a 28-year veteran of the CIA's National Clandestine Service. He was based in Moscow in the 1990s and was the deputy of the CIA's Worldwide Russia program. John, with a big welcome to you here.
Thanks.
To your mind, does this have the earmarks of a Russian setup? And then kind of explain what that would look like.
Yeah, we've seen Russian intelligence cyber attacks. This is very much along the playbook of Russian, but certainly even our playbook of human intelligence. And I understand the incredible reporting that's gone on to talk about this meeting, but in an intelligence operation, this meeting is less important than the lead up to it. So this email would have been sort of a soft approach. It would have been putting out some bait to see whether the Trump campaign would bite. They certainly bought. They bit right into it. They made it clear they want to play ball. But you have to remember, for the Russians here, they're playing on hostile territory in the United States. What they then want to know is when that meeting is set up, do the Trump campaign have a change of heart and bring the FBI to that meeting? All they need to do is send some dupes to that meeting to make sure that they're not arrested, the FBI doesn't come, and that is enough of a signal to the Russians that the Trump campaign people are willing to play ball, and then you're going to move to your next step in this operation.
So if this was, as you're describing, something that, or the intent of the Russians to compromise someone down the road, perhaps, it could be something you could extract. I don't want to use the word blackmail, but compromise someone down the road. They would not bring something significant to a first meeting, right? Because this is a testing of the waters.
That's absolutely right. You're testing to see willingness here. You're testing to see whether they're going to set you up. If the Russian intelligence made it clear to me that they wanted to talk to me about cooperating with them, I would say absolutely, let's set up a meeting, and then at that meeting I'd bring the FBI or the local service to have them arrested. The fact that they sent these dupes there to go to the meeting and the meeting went off without a hitch, that's enough of a signal to me that they want to play ball, that it might be worthwhile releasing these tapes. And also, what we don't know here, we have a single data point here, right? What the Mueller investigation is going to have is a spider chart, ancestry chart of connections, calls, intelligence reports, a timeline of who's meeting who before and after. So certainly, even if it wasn't Donald Trump Jr. or Paul Manafort, there were people traveling to Russia. There were a number of people out there that could have continued this operation.
Do you think the Russians gained anything from this meeting?
Yes, they gained a message that the Trump campaign at a very high level were willing to play ball and didn't mind compromising themselves and stepping over the line to something that, if not illegal, was certainly immoral and unethical and unpatriotic.
All right, former CIA agent, let's see, Rolf Moet Larsen, he wrote in the Washington Post that the campaign's willingness to take this meeting, to your point, and then more importantly, the failure to report the episode to U.S. authorities may have been exactly the green light we're looking for to launch a more aggressive phase of intervention in the U.S. election. What do you think your take is? Do you think overall this was interpreted by the Russians as the Trump campaign opening the door to Russian meddling?
Yes. It's an excellent article, and I would suggest people look at it. And Rolf's written a couple articles prior to that. Rolf's a good friend, and we've worked on Russia things and in Moscow together. So this is part, people have used the term dangle. It's a term of art, and it's not quite used appropriately in this instance. But it is a soft approach using what we call access agents, people to go out, assess the situation so that later on, perhaps, a Russian intelligence officer can get involved. But they wouldn't want to do that at this point because they're operating on hostile territory and they can get themselves arrested.
So, John, ultimately, to what end is Russia's big play here? What are they trying to obtain?
Listen, the Russians have made perhaps the largest intelligence operation in the world and maybe the most aggressive and a long history of talent at this. So they have a lot of irons in the fire, cyber, trolls, human intelligence. They're going to take advantage of everybody who travels to Russia. They're going to try all these things to see if any of them work. And the goal is obviously to get sources inside and all these other things, but more importantly, they are trying to do damage to the United States. They're trying to sow chaos. So even in this case, if the Trump campaign doesn't continue to play ball, if they don't have success in recruiting someone to be a sort of insider or a compromised person, they now have enough information, illicit activity that they could dribble and drabble it out to embarrass and frustrate the campaign or the new president over time. And perhaps that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this lawyer now talking about maybe she brought stuff, maybe she didn't. You know, you can't trust what you say, and this is like Lance Armstrong level of lying that's going on here.
John, if they're trying to sow chaos, mission accomplished, that's for darn sure. But do you think that because of this chaos and the constant finger-pointing focus on Russia, doesn't it all deter them from wanting to do this kind of thing in the future? They're like, oh, what a mess, we're just backing off. Is that at all their philosophy, or no?
No, they love the mess, and you got to remember here. Again, we were looking with one data point here. If you go back and look at that Steele dossier, which some of that may or may not be true, clearly the Russians had been looking at the Trump people for a long time, years perhaps, and had gathered assessment on what kind of people they were, you know, what kind of ego they had, what kind of business ties they had. So this could be a much longer operation. And again, the goal here is they're trying to do harm to the United States. And so if they can get a source inside to be someone who is an agent of influence to help them, fantastic. But that's a big ask. But nonetheless, they put out a lot of stuff out there that they can use later on down the line.
All right, John Sipher, we'll look forward to talking with you again. Thank you so much.
Well,
Defending the